Hi guys, welcome to the next episode of the second season of Pricing Masters. You have Kris and Maciej today, and we're going to crush value metrics. So one of the hardest things to capture when it comes to the pricing model. So Kris, what is a value metric?
So this is one particular or couple of particular things that your users, your customers are paying for. So this is basically after the value proposition, a price tag, the third or the second thing customers can see on your pricing page.
It is effectively what they are paying for in your platform. It's like when you go to the retailer and you purchase milk, you can purchase it in liters. Where you're purchasing, cars, you're purchasing in units. When you go to any other store, you can purchase it in meters, you can purchase something.
It's interesting that
basically it's a unit of a product that you're getting.
And milk is actually a good example because you can, as a B2C customer, most likely you're buying milk in liters. But for example, for B2B customers, you can buy milk in, tons or something like that.
Yeah, or exactly. So, or barrels or whatever, right? But a value metric is what is your customer effectively paying for. In the previous episode, we have covered the framework on what you can charge for. These were the triangles that you can. The metric can be based on licenses. It can be based on credits. In case based on usage. But what are the elements, ideally with examples, to pick the right value metric?
So basically, I think there are 4 areas, 5 areas actually. 4. There are 5 areas that you should take into consideration. And of course, they're all important. It depends which one is the more important. A bit depending on the users. Sometimes it depends on the geography. This is what we have seen in our case studies. But what are those 5 areas? So the first one is value alignment. So you need to choose your value metric, trying to answer the question: does the metric that I am currently using align with the value that I am creating?
So basically, the way I interpret this, does this align with customer value, is what is the output I am receiving by using this metric, and do I want more of it? In other words, not necessarily the customer wants to pay for more users because it increases the cost and might not increase the efficiency of the tool itself, right? But if my value metric is, for instance, lead generated, revenue generated, or I'm having the sustainability solution, reducing the carbon footprint, and I'm paying for reduced carbon footprint, it is possible that it is fully aligned with value because I want more of this output, right?
Yeah, and lead generation is a good example. For example, if you want to generate more leads, companies that are providing this service or this product to you, for example, might have the solution that automates your outbox, so sending emails, right? And either you can have a value metric which is emails sent, or for example, leads generated or leads contacted.
Yes, but this is not always easy to get this in line with the value, right?
Because of course, it needs to work for you. Yeah. It needs to work for your customer.
So what is the second element?
The second element is scalability. So does this metric allow for long-term growth, both for you and for customers?
Yeah. So scalability effectively means that if I use more of this tool, am I paying more
for this
solution? But it's also important to notice that don't punish your customers for usage. Very often it looks like, remember there were this telco AT&T, for instance, AT&T was famous for it, but also in Europe, these overages, right, charges. So you're paying to the certain limit, and then you're paying the 5 times, 6 times for the minute of the conversation for what you have paid before, right? So it was effectively punishing the customer for usage.
But looking at it from the different angle, it was scalable for the company because every minute that you call costs your provider. So really, how important is this? How important the scalability is really depends also on the costs that are associated with using your product. That's why the value metric, and this is the third area, should also be auditable.
I like this. So basically, this is, can this metric be measured in objective and transparent way? And the way I explained it to people is very simple. Imagine you're going to your accountant or CFO or any finance-related person, finance director, you name it, and based on how the offer looks like, can this very numbers-oriented person understand what they're paying for in this tool? And look, there are metrics like slots, or tokens, or credits. What is the credit? What is the slot? What is the token, right?
What is the value behind it, and what I'm paying for?
Which is like, I have a hard time understanding what is that I effectively am getting out of it. In other words, from the accounting perspective.
That's why value metric should also be acceptable for your users, and this is basically a common sense. So will customers accept this metric for pricing?
So that's why we are left very often with the user-based pricing, because this is a software legacy model from like 70s, 80s, where you have purchased for one seat, one user, Jira, Slacks of the world, they are actually using it, and that is maybe not perfect, not fully aligned with value, not necessarily fully scalable, relatively good in auditability, but in most cases this is a kind of, it's acceptable. It's not perfect, but it's acceptable. And the last thing is,
for me, one more thing about acceptability. For me, this area is especially important for a commodity market where there is a lot of comparables, super high competition. If everyone is paying by one value metric, not necessarily it is the best idea to choose different value metric, because most likely it won't be accepted by your client.
Especially when the market is already saturated. So for instance, a very good example is CRM. And the last piece is predictability. So is it predictable? So is the usage and payments, are they predictable both for vendor and for the customer? In other words, am I paying the same amount every single month, every single year, or will it fluctuate? Where is the volatility of this metric? And as you can see on the chart right now, it creates a funnel, right, of the things that you need to basically check box, tickle down as the potential metrics.
And very good exercise here is just to problem solve in your company what value metrics are okay for you, what value metrics you've been thinking on, and then assess those metrics in terms of these 5 areas. That can be eye-opening, that can be 1 8-hour workshops where you actually problem solve and assess all the value metrics that comes to your mind based on these areas. And that is why we're coming with another framework or examples to help you with this problem solving session, because we have 5 areas that value metrics can be bucketed in.
Yeah, so basically the most basic ones are user or time used, so named users, concurrent users, time used, so anything that is related to someone working on it, either as the full-time equivalent or part-time. The second is an actual software usage, which is a very popular, for instance, for MailChimp or any others, which is like number of marketing campaigns,
or
API
subscription revenue.
So anything that is not directly affected by the person using the product, but by the product itself.
Also, if you have a software and if it's linked, or if you do have a hardware supporting the software, there are also the metrics that are linked to hardware / resource usage. So
gigabytes, cores,
devices, volume of data, stuff like this.
Amazon Web Services, for instance.
And then the fourth one is company business units. So
very rare actually, but doable in enterprise, for instance.
yes, for example, we've been doing this project for the company that was digitizing the documents. And the number of the documents that you need to put online or you need to digitize depends on the number of employees that you have, because all the contracts, etc. So for this example, employees might be one of the company business units related.
SAP, all these very often legacy systems, but also annual COGS that you had before. This is something that is very often here.
And the metric, I think, or the type of the metric that will, I think, be more and more popular, since we are living in quite competitive times, will be the success-based / fees at risk, performance-based metric. So, for example, increase in return on investment from marketing.
Yeah, or reduction in days outstanding. This will be popular, for instance, for production facilities, manufacturing, where we can actually calculate the time, the equipment effectiveness, so how long the machine was actually used and what was the downtime time, for instance.
It will be the easiest for the companies that can actually come up with a baseline and then calculate from this baseline how much impact actually at the end I achieved.
This will be hard in most cases, but doable. A good example of a company that nailed it perfectly, I think it's Profitwell's Retain, where they charge you for the amount of churn saved. So when a customer wants to leave and it's an involuntary churn, they are saving it, and based on that, they are building the equation. Okay, great. So before we kind of depart, let's focus on few good examples with different elements. So value alignment, I think Stripe, Paddle, Chargebee, all these payment platforms,
that are in your bloodstream, actually.
Yeah, the difference between bloodstream companies and tools companies. Bloodstream are the companies that are necessary for your operations, while tools are just tools. They are nice to have. They are not mission critical.
Yes.
Scalability?
I think the AI tools, so for example, OpenAI credits.
Yeah, and the more you use, the more tokens. And this is important when you're building the AI products, most likely. And what I'm seeing right now, this is like February 2024 when we're recording this. Most companies I see, they try to basically add a cost. They are using the cost-based model, adding some margin on the AI tokens.
So they are always profitable.
They're always profitable, but in a sense, it becomes a market standard which was created by the OpenAI. So whoever manages to calculate the cost base properly and will fix it in a certain way might actually win. So this is important. Auditability. MailChimp, any marketing software that is based on emails sent, number of contacts that you actually have. So you know what you're paying for. We have used it, we're paying. We have users, we still have option to use these users, or seats, but that's fine. We know what we're paying for. This is critical.
And then acceptability, and this will be, I think,
all user based,
like Teams, for example, Jira,
Google Workspace. So if you want to move to very acceptable market standard, so to say, legacy model, ensure that your tool, your product, maybe not even tool, your product is used every day, and it becomes something that the employee or user will log in every day. So daily active users is your metric that you need to optimize for, and then you can build the product around it. Look at Slack, right? You're using it everywhere. Look at Teams, you're using it for meetings. So if you have some random weekly login, this is not user-based metric, is not a good one. And final, predictability. What is the golden example?
The most challenging, value ships, of course. That's the golden example. But thinking about more product-oriented, maybe Basecamp.
Yeah, Basecamp is also 37 signals. All what they're doing is they are all about customer centricity, simplicity of a product, believing in the product, that the product is great in itself. And what they're having in their annual fees is that you can purchase for $299 a month, you can purchase the unlimited users for the whole organization, even if it's like 5, 10, 20, 100 or 1,000, they don't care as long as you're there. So the predictability is the metric here. So with this in mind, I think this is pretty clear what you should be doing. On my end, my take for you here is very simple. Build this value alignment, scalability, auditability, predictability, and acceptability in the end. Run this checklist of potential value metrics that you want to get and see on the scale from 1 to 5 which aspects you're basically ticking in, ticking out, and this will help you pick the right value metrics. It doesn't matter if it's credit-based, license-based, or usage-based. This kind of checklist is still very helpful to determine the actual metrics that you need to use in your product.
So thank you very much for this episode. Highly recommend to go through this exercise, and see you soon in the next episode of Pricing Masters.
Bye.